Can't decide and torn between a romantic, comedy, action, or an indie film to watch for the weekend? Well. Golden State Media Concepts Movie Podcast is your ultimate guide to the latest movies. Join us as we dissect the latest on the blockbusters. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Movie Podcast.
Welcome back to GSMC Movie Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Cynthia, and today I have no co-host. We are missing Keith today. He is feeling sick, so let's all take a moment and send him our good prayers and thoughts and vibrations to him so that he feels better by next week. Everybody, a moment of silence. I'm just kidding. He did not die. He is just sick. So it is a one-woman show today, one lady show. So I hope you guys don't miss him too much and are okay with just listening to me speak for the duration of this episode. But I'm so glad to be back another week, recording another movie podcast with you guys. I'm going to be talking about the 2020 Oscar nominations as well as a couple of movie trailers that I'm actually pretty excited to watch. I feel like 2020 is starting off to a very strong year as far as cinema. So far, the movies that have been coming out last week and this week, I'm really looking forward to seeing. So I'll get into more detail on those two movie trailers in the later segments today. But for now, I want to get started, jump right into the Oscar nominations. And the Oscar nominations, or their nominees, were announced by actors John Cho and Issa Rae Monday morning. So this past Monday, the whole world found out. It was trending on Twitter of the nominees. And just like every other award show, award ceremony, there's always going to be people who are upset and are not okay with the nominees. And, you know, that's just a part of award shows at this point. So we shouldn't even be surprised. But this year's ceremony will take place on February 9th. So we're just about a short month away from the event. And I feel like the Oscars is probably the most prestigious movie award ceremony on top of even the Golden Globes. And it's not that I'm not saying this, but it's just like what I've heard around me. This is what celebrities put a lot of emphasis on. And I feel a lot of I wouldn't say celebrities, but actors and actresses kind of, I wouldn't necessarily say stress about, but many of them emphasize on the Academy and winning an award from them. In a sense, it's almost, I feel like that's a form of validation for them in their career. If you don't win an Oscar, it's like you have failed in acting, which I don't believe it's true. I don't think that award shows should validate any actors or actresses or directors or producers or writers' career. So just want to put that out there, just my opinion. And this year will be the 92nd Annual Academy Awards Show, which will be held at the Dolby Theater in Hollywood, which, for those of you who don't know, who have never heard the Oscars, hopefully most of you have, it honors the films as well as the acting, writing, and directing that have made a major impact in cinema over the last year. So pretty big deal. And what other more perfect and suitable place to hold the Academy Awards show than in Hollywood, the land where movies are made. Duh. And just like last year's ceremony, this year's 2020 Oscars will not have a host again. Carrie Burke, she is the president of Disney-owned ABC Entertainment, and the Academy is aired on this network. She recently announced that this year's award show will not have a traditional host, but will still be just as entertaining, which I hope so, but I don't know. I feel like the host, whoever the host or hosts of an award show kind of make up and add a lot of entertaining aspects to an award show. For instance, let me go back to what we talked about in last week's episode. Ricky Gervais, his 8-minute monologue at the Golden Globes, like that really set the tone, and it was like a really interesting aspect to the show. I mean, that 8-minute monologue that he did was viewed many more times and had many more views than the actual award show. So I feel like we kind of miss out when we don't have a host. And John Cho and Issa Rae, I feel like they would have been perfect to be the host for the Oscars. I mean, if you guys haven't seen the video of them announcing the 2020 Oscar nominees, they were so hilarious. Their chemistry and dynamic together is impeccable. And I feel like that's what the Oscars needs, and they would have added a special touch to the show if they invited them to be the host of the Oscars. I'm not exactly sure why they have stopped doing or having traditional hosts for the award show. This will be the second year in a row, but I mean, I guess we're just gonna have to tune in on February 9th to see how it goes. And I'm now going to get into the list of some of the nominees. I won't list every single nomination for the show because, again, we will be here all day, all night, and I got things to do. No, I'm kidding. And I'm going to get right into the very first nomination here, or category, I should say. And nominees for Best Actor in a Supporting Role goes as follows. Tom Hanks for his role in A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Anthony Hopkins for his role in The Two Popes. Al Pacino for his role in The Irishman. Joe Pesci for his role in The Irishman as well. And finally, we have Brad Pitt for his performance in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. In this case, in this specific category, Brad Pitt won in this exact same category for the Golden Globes, the one that just passed last weekend. So we shall see if he keeps that streak going and, you know, attains another win for Best Actor in a supporting role. I'm interested to see who wins in this category. I'm a fan of Al Pacino, but to be honest, I have not seen The Irishman still. I know, shame on me, shame on me. I'm a fan of his, so I'm inclined. And also, Robert De Niro is in that film as well, and like he's an amazing actor. But The Irishman is a 3-hour-long film, and I just don't think I could sit through a 3-hour-long film. I mean, I can barely stay awake for a 2-hour film, to be honest. So The Irishman, I'm gonna need to watch it because they've been getting recognized for many awards, Golden Globes, Oscars now. So there must be something in that film that makes it so special. So I do need to go see it. It is on Netflix, so I don't have an excuse because I have a Netflix account. I've just been lazy. I may have to break up The Irishman into 2 parts. Like in one sitting, watch an hour and a half, and then maybe in the second sitting, watch the other half of it. So we shall see. But more shocking about this category for me was Tom Hanks. This is his first Oscar nomination in almost 20 years. Almost 20 years, since 2001. That was the very last time he got nominated for an Oscar. And this is very surprising since he has starred in multiple and great films like Sully and Road to Perdition and The Post. So I'm also a huge Tom Hanks fan, if you haven't been able to tell through my voice. So I do hope he wins, just because I'll forever love his iconic performance in Forrest Gump, even though that is absolutely not what he's being recognized for this year's Oscars. But I just love Tom Hanks. I love him in Toy Story. I love his work. So I am rooting for him. That's going to be a very tough category, honestly, because they got some A+ actors for Best Actor in a Supporting Role. Now let's move on to our ladies, the woman. For Best Actress in a Supporting Role, the following nominees are Kathy Bates for her performance in Richard Jewell, Laura Dern for her performance in Marriage Story, Scarlett Johansson for her performance in Jojo Rabbit, Florence Pugh for her performance in Little Women, and Margot Robbie for her performance in Bombshell. And I'm very interested. I'm kind of confused as to how Jojo Rabbit got nominated. I'm very inclined to watch this film for a couple reasons. One, my sister watched Jojo Rabbit last weekend, and she told me it's about, in a nutshell, about Nazis and Hitler, but with a humorous twist to it. It's a satirical film. And if you haven't watched the trailer, go watch it, because I know just by me even saying or mentioning Nazi or Hitler, many of you are probably like raising your eyebrow right now, like, why do I need to go watch a film about this? But watch the trailer and you will better understand pretty much the essence of Jojo Rabbit. But I'm inclined because my sister recommended it to me, and two, I like Scarlett Johansson, so I want to see and get more clarification as to why she got nominated for Best Actress in a Supporting Role. So we shall also stay tuned for that next month. And now, Best Actor in a Leading Role. The following nominees are Antonio Banderas for his performance in Pain and Glory, Leonardo DiCaprio for his performance in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Adam Driver for his performance in Marriage Story, Joaquin Phoenix for his performance in Joker, and finally we have Jonathan Pryce for his performance in The Two Popes. Now, I may be a little biased here because I watched the film, but I already think that Joaquin Phoenix should take the win for this category for his performance in Joker. I've mentioned this many, many times in previous episodes, but his performance was iconic, impeccable, and this is going to be a very out there statement for me to say, but I'm going to say it. I believe, in my opinion, because that's what it is at the end of the day, it's just an opinion, but in my opinion, I believe that Joaquin Phoenix's performance as the Joker is probably one of the most iconic performances of the last decade, of the 2010s. And I know that's a pretty big statement to say, but I truly believe it because I feel like he really did something in that film. He perfectly captured what it's like for I wouldn't say average person, but for a civilian to be going through mental and emotional stress and issues and mental illness awareness. And I love that he shed light onto that, and he was able to perfectly capture that I feel like it's just very relatable. It's not your typical action type film, like a Marvel film. It's still considered a comic film from critics when I was reading. But I highly recommend watching this film if you haven't. I mean, I feel like the majority of people have already, but I love his performance. I absolutely loved it. So I hope he takes the win for Best Actor in a Leading Role. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to cut into our very first break right now. And when I come back, I'll be sharing with you guys the nominees for Best Actress in a Leading Role.
Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. Keith keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
Hello and welcome back to GSMC Movie Podcast. And let's continue to get through all of the nominations that I picked for the 2020 Oscars awards show. And let's get into who is nominated for Best Actress in a Leading Role. The following nominees are, and I totally feel like I am the host of the Academy. I'm like, and the following nominees go to... I mean, I could be. I can dream big, right? Who knows, you guys? You heard it here first. I could be possibly hosting an awards show. I mean, I'm practicing right now with you guys, so bear with me. And the following nominees for the Best Actress in a Leading Role go to Cynthia Erivo for her performance in Harriet, Scarlett Johansson for her performance in Marriage Story, Saoirse Ronan for her role in Little Women, Charlize Theron for her performance in Bombshell, and finally, but not least, Renee Zellweger for her performance in Judy. At this year's Golden Globes award ceremony, the one that just happened last weekend, Renee Zellweger won in this specific category for Best Actress in a Leading Role. So just like Brad Pitt for actor, we shall see if Renee Zellweger takes the win, takes the cake for the specific category. So yeah, we shall see. I am not too sure who will win. Again, these are all very amazing actors and actresses in each category. I mean, I feel like they all deserve to be on this list. They've all done something in film and cinema and, you know, have sparked a conversation in some shape, way, or form. And their jobs are not easy. So I applaud all of these actors and actresses who have even made the nominations list. And let's move on to Best Picture, aka Best Film, Best Movie, all of that. And the following nominees are Ford vs. Ferrari, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. Now, I have a couple of interesting facts to share with you guys regarding the nominations for Best Picture. So, Parasite, the very last film I just mentioned, just made Oscar history by being the first ever South Korean film to be nominated for Best Picture and for Best International Film. That is absolutely amazing, and I'm so happy. That's a win for South Korea already just to be nominated for Best Picture. However, no international or foreign language film has ever won for Best Picture. Obviously for Best International Film because that's exactly what it is, an international film. But never in the history of the Oscars has an international or foreign language film won for Best Picture. And to be honest, I'm going to tell you guys why I believe this is it. So, for an international film, right, many of the films are, you know, based here in the United States, and the award shows are in the United States. And if it's an international film or a foreign language film, I'm just assuming it could possibly be because many Americans or some Americans don't speak the language. So I feel like it's just because of the language barrier. I know many amazing Latin films and Latin actors I think that should be nominated for the Academy Awards show, but I think they're not even in the same lane because of the language barrier. So I feel like that's possibly maybe why no international film has ever won for Best Picture at the Oscars, but who knows? This year could be different. Parasite could still make history, another mark in history, and be the first international film to win for Best Picture. So again, we shall stay tuned for next month. Another interesting fact regarding the nominations for Best Picture. The Irishman, okay, I mentioned it in the previous segment. So it runs for exactly 209 minutes. So that's roughly 3 hours. And that's making it the longest Best Picture nominee film of the last half century, you guys. So the last film that has been nominated for Best Picture and that has exceeded more minutes than The Irishman was the 1963 film Cleopatra. I believe Cleopatra is like 229 minutes and The Irishman's 209. But for the last half century, there has been no other longer movie than The Irishman to be nominated for Best Picture. So that's pretty crazy to think about. But I mean, typically many movies that we see today are not 3 hours long. So I'm not entirely surprised that they broke that record, because the majority of the movies that are out are around 2 hours to as low as, I mean, if it's not a documentary, then if we're excluding documentaries, it's anywhere from an hour and like 15 minutes, 10 minutes to 2 hours. Now, let's move on to the best directors, because there were some controversies via social media regarding this specific category. So the nominees for best director are Martin Scorsese for his work in The Irishman, Todd Phillips for Joker, Sam Mendes for 1917, Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Bong Joon-ho for his work in Parasite. So far, you guys, interesting fact, Joker is leading this year's Oscar nominations. So this year, Joker is taking the lead with 11 nominations. That is impressive, and that's already a win for them, just being nominated for that many awards. And in this category for the Golden Globes, Sam Mendes won for Best Director for his work in 1917. So we shall see if he also takes the win for Best Director at the Academy Awards. But again, this is also a very tough competition. I mean, all of these films have multiple nominations for this year's Oscars. So again, they must have done something quite amazing to be recognized multiple times, whether it's through the director, Best Picture, Best Actor, Actress. So again, tough competition. You guys should already know which way I'm gearing towards, but I think Joker should take the win. Okay. I just love that movie. Like, I truly love that movie, and it's absolutely one of my favorites. So go watch it. And I very briefly touched on this in the very beginning of the episode today, but just like the Golden Globes and every other award show ceremony that occurs every year, there are many snubs, many people disappointed, many people upset, fans, who don't want to watch any award show or the Oscars, even those who are involved in the entertainment industry themselves. Someone's always going to be upset about something regarding an award show, whether that's this person didn't get nominated, or this film got excluded, or this group of people got excluded. No one's ever going to be happy. We just have to accept that. Like, that's just, at this point, we shouldn't even be surprised. That's already the steez of award shows. And one of the people being upset and disappointed was director Greta Gerwig for her work in Little Women. Again, exactly like the Golden Globes, no women were nominated for an Oscar for Best Director in the Best Director category, which is surprising to me because Little Women has some Oscar nominations through their actors. So who do you think directed them in their acting? The director, Greta Gerwig. So I understand where she's coming from. I would be fairly upset. I would be disappointed. She got excluded from the Golden Globes and now the Oscars, but her work is still being recognized in other ways through the actors and actresses in the film. So I would, if I were in her shoes, I sympathize with her. I understand her frustration. In addition, many film fans were also shocked and frustrated by the omission of uncut gems in the 2020 Academy Award nominations. Keith and I briefly touched on this film and this movie trailer a couple episodes back. We both said how confused we were by the trailer because we understood we couldn't understand the plot of the film. We knew it had something to do with, like, there was some violence involved. Adam Sandler, he's like a gambler, or he places a lot of bets and he owes people money, and there's guns involved, there's sex involved, like the typical like action thriller film. We understood it was in that genre, but we couldn't grasp exactly like what's the issue, what's the problem, what are they trying to solve. So I'm actually surprised that fans are upset that uncut gems were completely shut out of this year's Academy Award nominations. And this film was directed by brothers Josh and Benny Safdie. And again, Adam Sandler was the star of the show. And apparently they had a very strong opening box office week. Especially, they were A24's highest grossing film ever. So people definitely felt type of way, definitely felt like Adam Sandler and overall Uncut Gems got robbed. But as I was, researching and looking up all the nominations, I know I said in the earlier episodes that Uncut Gems is probably a trash film. Keith and I both said that. And we both would want to watch it just to almost make fun of it, if I'm being completely honest, like it's a trash film. But it looks like I'm completely wrong, that a lot of fans are saying that's a great film, amazing performance by Adam Sandler, by far one of his most impressive ones, which I'm a fan of Adam Sandler, so I may need to go see Uncut Gems, because so many people are upset that they did not get nominated for this year's Oscar awards. So again, they must have done something amazing in that film. And I'm sure Adam Sandler's performance was on point. It always is. He's an amazing actor. I love all of his work. Someone else that a lot of fans were upset about was that Jennifer Lopez also missed out on an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress for her role in the comedy drama film Hustlers. And she did get nominated in this specific category for the Golden Globes. However, she got shut out just like Adam Sandler, just like director Greta Gerwig, for this year's Oscar nominations. I'm not exactly sure how the Academy, what are the requirements? How do they, air quote, grade the films and the actors and actresses in these films? So, like I just said, we shouldn't even be surprised. She wasn't nominated in this category, and many other actors were also shut out. Fans also were upset that other people like Lupita Nyong'o, Awkwafina, Tyrone Egerton, Eddie Murphy, Robert De Niro, and many more people that I'm probably not mentioning. Many fans were upset that so many people got shut out. But again, you guys, we should not even be surprised at this point. This happens every year at every award show. So that is going to wrap up the Oscar nominations talk. We will definitely revisit the Oscars when it happens in February. So stay tuned for that. And I'm going to cut into another quick break. And when we come back, I'm going to share with you guys 2 movie trailers that I'm very excited to watch.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Hey guys, and welcome back to GSMC Movie Podcast. Let's get straight into what I'm here to talk about, what I'm here to share with you guys. The very first film that I am so ecstatic to watch. I cannot wait till it comes out this Friday, January 20, or not. See, I don't even know what day I'm on. January 17th in theaters, you guys, this Friday. Bad Boys for Life. I am so excited for this film. For those of you who don't know, the main stars of the show are, of course, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. They have been on social media doing crazy promotion for this film since like last year. I think like over the summer, they officially confirmed and shared it to the world that the third sequel was coming. You guys, I am so juiced. So for those of you who don't know, I'm going to give you the synopsis. This is a rated R action adventure comedy film. And the synopsis is, the bad boys Mike Lowry and Marcus Burnett are back together for one last ride in the highly anticipated Bad Boys for Life. Old school cops team up with an elite unit to take down the vicious leader of a Miami drug cartel. So for those of you who have never watched any of the Bad Boys films, they are two cops, all right? Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, they're cops in the movies. They're based in Miami, which of course Miami has the stigma of, all the cocaine, drug cartels, all of that stuff. So I feel that's like a perfect place to have it. Perfect setting. And I like that the directors and the producers didn't change that theme in this third sequel, because I feel like when you think of Bad Boys, for those of you fans who are listening and are connecting with me right now in my excitement, you know that there's not too many things they need to change in the films, and I think that's why they've been so successful, is because it's kind of been the same storyline in all three. It's two cops, they're besties, and they're based in Miami. It always has to do with like taking down a drug cartel or taking down a bad guy, something in drugs. So there's going to be guns and violence, and I think that's like the whole essence of Bad Boys, and I'm just so juiced for it. I'm so juiced. Can you guys tell through my voice? The directors of Bad Boys for Life are Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah. This will be the first Bad Boys film not to be directed or produced by Michael Bay. So Michael Bay, he produced the first two Bad Boys. The one that came out in 1995, that's the very first one, Bad Boys. And then Bad Boys 2, which came out in 2003. So it's been almost 20 years, nearly 17 years to be exact, since the last sequel came out. So this has been highly anticipated by many fans, such as myself. And why I'm even more excited for Bad Boys for Life is because of the cast. They have such an amazing group of actors and actresses in this film. I'm so excited. I didn't know that I needed Vanessa Hudgens in this film, but she's now going to be starring in it starting this Friday. We have Alexander Ludwig, DJ Khaled. Of course, he's based in Miami, so like you have to have DJ Khaled in there. Nicky Jam. So for those of you who don't know, Nicky Jam, he is a Latino artist, reggaeton artist. He's huge. And Kate del Castillo. You guys, if you're Latino, you probably know who Nicky Jam and Kate del Castillo is. But Kate del Castillo, you guys, she's a novela superstar. Like my favorite novelas she is a star of them. And the ones that she's been involved in have to do with like narco trafficking, drug cartels. So like it's so perfect that they recruited her for this film, since it's dealing with, again, drug cartels. So no, I am so excited. I am definitely going to go watch this film in theaters. I will not illegally download it off my computer. And I know that's very illegal, so don't tell anyone. But I am just so excited for this film. And I also just love their theme song, Bad Boys by Inner Circle. If you guys haven't heard it, go listen to it. That is the Bad Boys theme song. And I love that they continued with that exact same song from start to finish. So in the trailer, they did mention or recognize the song in the trailer. So all in all, I'm just so excited. I cannot wait for it to come out. Again, Bad Boys for Life in theaters this Friday, January 17th. Let me know in the comments if you guys are just as excited as I am. And let's move on to the second movie trailer that I'm here to talk about and that I'm pretty excited. Probably not as much as Bad Boys for Life, because I'm obsessed with Will Smith. He's my absolute favorite. But I am pretty excited for this next film that I'm going to be talking about, and that is Dolittle. Dolittle also hits theaters this Friday, January 17th. This is rated PG. It's also labeled as an action adventure comedy film. I don't know if I really would put this film in that genre, because when I think of like action, adventure, comedy, I mean, Bad Boys for Life captures that entire idea. But I mean, if we have to like group the movie in a specific category, then I guess we can do it here. And I'm now going to share with you guys the synopsis of this film. So it goes. After losing his wife 7 years earlier, the eccentric Dr. John Dolittle, famed doctor and veterinarian of Queen Victoria's England, hermits himself away behind the high walls of Dolittle Manor with only his menagerie of exotic animals for company. But when the young queen falls gravely ill, a reluctant Dolittle is forced to set sail on an epic adventure to a mythical island in search of a cure, regaining his wit and courage as he crosses old adversaries and discovers wondrous creatures. So, depending what generation you're in, they're making a remake of the Dolittle story. So Eddie Murphy, he did the Dr. Dolittle. That's what the films were called. Dr. Dolittle, then Dr. Dolittle 2, and Dr. Dolittle 3. Eddie Murphy has appeared in all three. I also love those films. So I'm intrigued for that reason. I'm intrigued because I want to compare how Dolittle is to how Dolittle will compare to Dr. Dolittle, the past films. Those were in like the late 90s, early 2000s. The director for this film is Stefan Kagan. And the cast, I'm also very excited for the cast. I mean, like I said, 2020 is starting off strong. They are doing cinema's doing such an amazing job in recruiting the people who are hot right now, the actors and actresses who are hot right now. So in this cast, the star is Robert Downey Jr., Antonio Banderas, Michael Sheen, Emma Thompson, Rami Malek, John Cena, LOL, Selena Gomez, and many more actors and actresses on this list. But those are the ones that stood out to me. Those are the ones I'm excited to see, especially John Cena. Like, you guys know he's a wrestler, right? So I'm just excited to see what role does he play for Doodle. Like, what part is he in? I'm so excited. I'm also a fan of Robert Downey Jr. I love all of his work, Sherlock Holmes, Iron Man, Adventures. I mean, I love his acting. So I'm very, very excited to see him in Dolittle. And the producers of this film are Joe Roth, Jeff Kirschenbaum, and Susan Downey. Susan Downey, if you guys can't tell by the last name, is Robert Downey Jr.'s wife. That's pretty cool to also be working with their wife. I mean, I wonder how it is, crossing that work and pleasure zone with your spouse. But I'm assuming it's okay because, I mean, they're coming out with an amazing film, Dolittle. And interesting fact here I want to share with you guys. Joe Roth, he also produced the films Alice in Wonderland, the one that stars Johnny Depp, and Maleficent. So if you can kind of see, he has like the same type of cinematography in all three films, like Dolittle, Alice in Wonderland, and Maleficent. They're all very bright colored. The animation is pretty amazing. It's pretty top quality. So again, I'm very excited now knowing that Joe Roth also produced Dolittle. And after watching the trailer, there is this one specific scene where they're riding in a ship, riding through the water. And it reminded me a little bit of Pirates of the Caribbean, but except for pirates, there's animals on the ship. So if you've watched the film, you know exactly what scene I'm talking about. And I'm wondering now too if Joe Roth also produced Pirates of the Caribbean, because I'm telling you, like, this specific scene, if I were to just like screenshot it, it looks exactly like it's a scene from Pirates of the Caribbean. So that was just like my initial thought when I watched that specific scene in the trailer. And again, I wonder how this Dolittle is going to hold up and compare to the past Dr. Dolittle films with Eddie Murphy. Those were pretty amazing and iconic. So we'll see if Dolittle, holds up to that standards. But shocking. When I logged into Twitter this morning, I saw Dolittle was trending, right? So I was immediately assuming like, oh, people are probably loving it if it's trending. But I was shocked to see that it's trending because all of the critic reviews for Dolittle so far are terrible. Like, I was so shocked to see some critic reviews were saying that he's trying to be overly funny. Some were saying he's not funny at all. Some were saying that the only person who even made the film remotely good was John Cena because he was like a polar bear. I don't know, but I was super shocked. So that just made me even more enticed into the film because here I have a preconception like, okay, it's going to be great. Robert Downey Jr. is in it. The producer's amazing as well. The cinematography, the animation looks amazing. But critic reviews are, saying otherwise. So we're just going to have to see. The real fans are going to have to be the real critics of the film. So again, Bad Boys for Life and Dolittle coming out both this Friday, January 17th. Let me know in the comments if you guys are just as pumped as I am. If you guys are also going to go out of your way to go see these films. And you guys, that's going to wrap up today's episode for the GSMC Movie Podcast. And I know you guys all missed Keith today, but hopefully you guys were just as entertained with my voice. And if you liked today's episode, please, please, please do not forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends, your auntie, your everybody, okay? Leave some comments, leave us a 5-star review. And stay tuned for next week's episode here at GSMC Movie Podcast.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Movie Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.